ISE 2026 is now open.
Greetings to you all. Myself included, people often forget just how important the acoustic treatment of a space is. Whether you are listening to the music or watching films, the room itself plays just as big a role as your speakers, amplifiers and other audio components. That's why, while attending ISE 2026 in Barcelona, I thought it would be incredibly valuable to speak with the CEO of Vicoustic, a company known for producing a superb, highly effective acoustic solutions.
Welcome, Cesar, and I'm really glad to have you here. I've been trying to reach Vicoustic for a long time, and finally I have you here, and I would love to speak with you about your company and about your products.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to tell our story and about our brand. So Vicoustic started in 2007, actually a bit before. I was an entrepreneur having a company that was distributing musical instruments and software for music production. I was Steinberg distributor and was giving training about Cubase and how to make music using software. So in my portfolio of brands, I didn't have acoustic treatment. And look in the market, what was in the market was extremely ugly. And I had the idea, okay, so in Portugal, we do really nice furniture. Why not use, the competencies of our country on the furniture sector to make acoustic products? And this is how it started. And then very naturally, the acoustic business started to grow, and the music business or the musical instruments distribution started to decrease, because we faced very big competitors like Thomann and Music Store at the time. So I decided to dedicate myself to the acoustic world, and here we are. Started with 2 people, and now we are over 300.
Oh wow, that's impressive. Yeah.
Yes. So basically in Portugal what we have is a factory where we transform wood. We still have some products made out of polyurethane, but the main raw material we use is recycled plastic.
Okay.
So what is a water bottle today, tomorrow maybe an acoustic panel in a recording studio.
Okay, so yeah, and exactly what kind of products you're making from the recycled material?
Yes, well, it started with the raw material itself. We recently merged with a partner of us in India. So in India, what we do is the recycling of the PET fibers, and we transform that into a wool.
Okay.
That wool can be used as acoustic isolator inside walls, thermal and acoustic, or can be transformed into very beautiful acoustic panels. In our stand, you have some examples from small things to large panels with 2.7 meters by 1.2.
So basically a solid piece of plastic can be turned into the wool, which have absorbing properties.
Yes, and in my vision, it's better to recycle a plastic bag into an acoustic panel, because it will be on the wall for many years.
Yeah.
While if you recycle it into another plastic bag, it will probably end up in the trash somehow. So the lifespan of our products very big in comparison with the traditional recycling product that you use every day. So I think the industry should has a really important role on the circular economy, and would be important for more brands to use more recycled products and use them in construction and decoration, because they will be used for much longer.
And also it's probably, it's not a problem to find enough material.
Oh no, unfortunately not.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And so can you tell who are your buyers? So you're aiming at the residential market or professionals, or maybe both?
Our story is really interesting. Because my background is the music market, started to making products for musicians, for home studios. So the first product line of Vicoustic was for musicians. Vicoustic came in a time where musical instruments and recording gear prices were going down with very good quality, right? In 2007, you could get a really good microphone for 300 euros. And of course, the musicians start recording at home because the recording studios per hour it's expensive. So there was a good time for us because people recording at home, and home have normal rooms have parallel walls that are very bad for acoustics. You know, large reflective surfaces that are awful for acoustics.
Glass,
Yes, a lot
glass
of glass.
furniture, yeah.
And stone, and of course concrete. Yeah, then you needed the products to fix the acoustic problems. Otherwise, you couldn't mix at home at all. So we started with the music market. Our first trade show was the Music Mess in 2007. We were very lucky because one of our demonstrators was a known musician. He was playing for the Sisters of Mercy for some time. I got friends from Kraftwerk to other musicians.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it was very natural that our products then were used for very important artists on the market. And then, of course, then the other industries come and ask, oh, can I do home cinema with these products? We need different finishes. We need different sizes. We need bigger bass traps. And then we start developing products for those markets. And then we start getting in more into hospitality, residential, more architecture products. So now we have a line that goes from the very inexpensive accessory for a musician to products to cover large surfaces in hotels and stuff like that.
Okay, I'm glad to say that I'm one of your buyers. I
Thank
do
you.
have a cinema round at
Yes.
home, and to be honest, I don't know why I waited so long to get them. I mean, probably I know why, because I wasn't sure how to fix them without damaging the wall. That was
Yes.
my big problem. But later I came up with the idea how to fix them to the painted wall, but not to damage it. I'll share you how I've done it later. And I have quite a modest home cinema setup. And after I installed those 8 panels, I had a feeling like I bought a new system. Everything became so clearer, the dialogue and the music scene. And I was like, what? I should have done it earlier. So yeah. And my point is that a lot of people are hooked on buying new amplifiers, new speakers, improving cables, and
Yes.
but I think the biggest, and it's way less expensive part, is the room acoustic that you can sort to improve the overall experience in your listening area.
The most important is the acoustics before the gear. Of course, if you don't have a good sound source, you will never gonna get good sound, right? So this is basic. But the most important is that the acoustic is proper for the place. So for example, in a classroom, you want reflections so that the teacher can be heard, you know, in the last spots of the classroom. But you need also to have intelligibility. So you need to have absorption in specific spots.
So the sound is not muffled.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So in an auditorium, you need diffusers to make the sound, you know, to reflect and go to the back of the audience, right? In a recording studio, you need the sweet spot where the mixing desk is and the technician to be perfect. So doing the acoustic treatment on a room is not expensive. You can do it with a low budget. And you can do it, of course, if you want more products made with wood, solid wood, very well crafted. Of course, the materials are expensive, then you pay a bit more. The most important is knowing the quantities, what to put where. And try not to do it yourself and ask an advice. For example, in Vicoustic, it costs like 50 euros, something like that, to get an acoustic advice. It's nothing. We actually lose money when we do an advice and charge 50 euros. So this is a filter so that we don't have 1 million people just asking and not interested in buying the products. But the most important is, you know, it's a prescription. You know what to put, where to put. And then you decide on your budget what kind of product you're going to pick, and that's a personal taste. We cover all this from very cheap to very expensive.
Okay, maybe let's cover a little bit about your product range. And I think there is three categories, so absorption, diffusion, and isolation.
Yes, and we have some hybrid products that
And the
does
hybrid,
both.
yeah. So when we speak about the acoustic treatment, if you're not into that topic, everyone thinks about the
Isolation.
I would say absorption, but I think the diffusion is the also quite important role because it's quite easy to over dampen the room, so
Yes.
make it too dry, too
Yes,
dead.
yes.
So
Yes, I'm going to touch two topics. One, many people mix isolation with acoustic treatment. Well, isolation is to prevent the sound to go from one place to the other. This is easy to understand, right? If you have one room and the next room you don't want to hear anything, you need to put not only products, but the constructive way to minimize the vibration, because sound is vibration, to the other room. You need specific materials, but also need specific techniques to make sure the materials don't pass the vibration. This is one area of acoustics. The other is to tune the room to its purpose that we talked about before. And to tune the room to its purpose, most of the cases you need the reflections and diffusers, and you need absorbers. And in some cases, we sell products that changes the acoustics. So in one side, they absorb, and the other, they diffuse. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a recording studio and have a small space to record. If you want to record voice, you need the room to be very dry without any reflections. If you want to record an acoustic guitar, it's better to have some reflections, to have a brighter sound.
yeah.
So if you tell me, what's the best acoustic for this room? Depends on the purpose. You're going to record the voice? One thing. You're going to record the guitar? It's another thing. You have a stereo systems to listen music? It's one thing. If you have 5.1 to listen
Atmos,
movie,
yeah.
you need another thing, right? So you need that speciality instead of only the stereo. So each room has a purpose, and the acoustics need to be tuned to that purpose. So the diffusers, what they do the same as the diffusers of light, for example. If you have a light and you don't put any diffusers, you're going to see points where it's brighter, others that is darker, right? And with sound, we can do the same analogy. With the sound, it's a bit the same. We use the diffusers to spread the sound, to make it more even. The diffusers need a lot of mass so that the sound bounces with the maximum energy. And if you find a diffuser in the market that is like a Tupperware, some brands have it, a hollow thing in plastic, you drop a ping pong ball on it and it almost doesn't jump. And the sound will happen the same. It will be absorbed instead of being reflected. Then you need absorbers for the first reflections most of the times. When you have the speakers, you have the direct sound from the speakers, let's say, for example, on a studio. And then the first reflections, they bounce on the wall and they come to you milliseconds after the first source. So the sound when arrives to you is not on the same phase than the sound from the speakers. You need some absorption to minimize this problem. And you get those from the ceiling and from the walls.
Multiply it by 6, basically. Yeah.
So if you could see sound, you would see, points where frequencies add, so you have more of that frequency, points where they cancel, and the trick is to make sure that the place where you are listening the music, you don't have these phase cancellations. And this is our job, to advise what to put where, so that when you listen your music, you are on the right place with the right acoustics. And then, fine, you can buy very expensive speakers, amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, if someone is not a professional and doesn't know how to do it, I think you have a solution for that. So you have a program.
Yes, we have two ways of helping people. One is educate them through white papers that are free. You can download them from our website. Everything I'm explained, much better explained by experts, because I'm not an acoustician, on these white papers. We have white papers for home cinemas, for control rooms, for public spaces, and for offices. That is free of charge. If you want to go deep into acoustics, then we have a program called Vicoustic Academy. We do 1 or 2 sessions per year. So you have to fly to Portugal, visit our amazing country. We tour you through the factory and demo rooms, because we have places where we have the products installed with the sound system to make measurements, and we remove the panels, we measure the before, we put the panels and measure the after. But before all this practice, we teach the theory behind it. So you understand what is happening when we do these changes. And then we also have a lab that is a reverberant chamber that we transform into an anechoic chamber. And on this reverberant chamber, we simulate the acoustic modes, which in nature sometimes is difficult to realize. So we create a standing wave, and you can hear a determined frequency on one spot, and then you step back and you don't hear anything. And this to demonstrate one acoustic problem, of course, take it to an extreme, but it's a very interesting experiment. And then, of course, you get to enjoy good food and good weather in Portugal. And also the network, because most people that attend works in music industry or in the acoustic industry. Some of them, we got people from, car manufacturers to just curious. It's a very interesting concept.
And how long is the course?
Normally it's 2 nights, so you stay in Portugal for 2 nights. It's included in the price. Some people extend their staying to visit Portugal, but it's 2 days of training and 2 nights with food and drinks. Everything is included.
Which part of the Portugal you are located
Yes, in the north of Portugal. It's a very industrialized area, 40 kilometers from Porto, called Passos de Ferreira. And that is a hub of industry related to the wood transformation. So this is the reason why one of our factories is over there.
Great. And also, I just wanted to come back a little bit to your products. I think for some people, the acoustic treatment is as important as the room design. And I think you have products that can be like the pattern or the picture can be printed on them. So
yes. So in 2014, I discovered that a manufacturer of plastic fibers was doing this recycling from the plastic bottles to plastic fibers. And this wool was used in the healthcare industry. And I discovered that we could sublimate this material and give it a finish to look like rigid materials. So we patented that technology, and we call it VMT, that is virtual material technology. So basically we use the plastic fibers to make simulation of rigid materials. So if you look at it, it looks like a piece of marble, but it's not. You can only know if you go there and touch it.
So you're going to touch it, it's going to be kind of soft.
Yes, if you touch it, it will be soft to absorb the sound. And this is very useful because most contemporary architecture uses a lot of concrete, a lot of marble, stone. Not so much maybe here in Europe, but if you go, for example, to Qatar, everything is made out of marble. That is extremely bad for acoustics. And this way, we can do the acoustic treatment dissimulated with the rest of the materials so that it doesn't shock with the vision of the architect or the designer.
Here at ISE2026, you have your booth at Hall 2, and I saw you have a few new products. Would you tell a little bit more about them?
Yes, so we are presenting our very big acoustic panels made out of recycled PET with a new technology that can simulate leather and fabrics. So when you look at it, you won't find any difference between fabrics or leather and the PET. They cover from floor to ceiling in most European houses. This is meant for hotels and home cinemas because they cover from the floor to the ceiling. This is one. The other is a very easy to install collection of panels. They look more like art. This was actually a challenge from our Chinese distributor. He wanted something super simple to install, nothing complex for his clients to just drop the reverberation of their houses. And they were looking for something that looks more like art and doesn't look too much as an acoustic panel. So we have 2 collections of panels with this concept, let's say. Then we're showing some baffles that we developed for an arena in Korea. These baffles are on the stand, and they have a construction system that allows to put from 3 to 24 baffles in one set. This is to facilitate the installation on a very big venue. You know, if you want to put 1,000 groups of baffles, you only have 4 points of fixation per group, which is really good. It saves a lot on the installation. So we're showing a bit of the new products, and then we have new booths that we're showing only the videos because they're too big to our stand.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Also, I think a quite important aspect when you are acoustically treating your room is not just the number of panels, but also the panel thickness. In your product range, you have quite a few products with different thickness.
Yes, not only the thickness, it's the shape and the technique that they use to absorb the sound. Because you can absorb the sound using porous materials like the PET that we're talking about. And then we have thickness from 4 millimeters up to 8 centimeters. We have a panel with 25 centimeters thickness. It was a panel that we developed for the Portuguese television station, and then we end up putting it in the market.
Okay.
Thickness and the shape, but of course how it's built, because you can also absorb sound using membranes. So if you have a bass trap, for example, and you use membranes, it's possible to get it thinner, but absorbing more lower frequencies. Our bass traps uses both techniques. They use membranes as well as porous materials to be the maximum effective possible and not having a too big product, because it will remove space in a room, right? Normally we don't have too much space to do our listening room at home.
Great. So thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you.
And I hope to feature more of your products on my channel in the future. And thank you once again.
Thank you. See you later.